There is a pain that only women know. A pain that doesn't bleed. A pain that leaves no visible wound, but it cuts deeper than any knife. It is the pain of wanting a child and being unable to have one. Our ancestors understood this pain. They knew that a woman without children was not just sad, she was incomplete. Her place in society was questioned. Her worth was measured by an empty womb. And desperate people make desperate choices. This is the story about desperation, about the terrible price of getting what you want, about a woman named Wanjiru and the thing she gave birth to.
Wanjiru was a good woman, the kind of woman mothers pointed to and said, that is how a wife should be. She woke before dawn to prepare her husband's breakfast. She tended the shamba with strong, capable hands. She welcomed guests with warmth and generosity. She respected the elders. She honored the ancestors. In every way that mattered, Wanjiru was perfect, except one. She could not get pregnant. At first, it didn't seem like a problem. She had married Kamau when she was 18, young, healthy, full of life and hope. Give it time, her mother-in-law said. Some women take longer than others. So they waited. 1 year passed, then 2, then 3. The village women began to whisper, not loudly, never loudly, but in that way women whisper when they think you can't hear but want you to feel their judgment. Still no child, they would say at the river. Maybe she is cursed, another would suggest. Or maybe Kamau should find a second wife, the boldest would add. And Wanjiru would pretend not to hear. But every word was a knife, every glance was a wound. Year 4 came, then year 5. Kamau never complained. He never raised his voice. He never threatened to take another wife. But Wanjiru saw the sadness in his eyes, saw how he looked at other men's children with longing, saw how he would pause when he heard a baby crying in the compound next door, and she felt herself breaking, slowly, quietly, like a clay pot with invisible cracks that only show when you try to carry water. She went to the medicine man. He gave her herbs that tasted like dirt and bitterness. She drank them faithfully. Nothing happened. She went to the church, prayed until her knees ached, until her voice was hoarse, until she had no more tears left to cry. Nothing happened. She consulted a traditional healer in the next village, performed rituals under the full moon, wore amulets around her waist, buried offerings at the foot of the sacred Mugumo tree. Nothing, nothing, nothing. By year 7, Wanjiru had tried everything, everything legal, everything moral, everything blessed by God and ancestors alike, and still her womb remained empty. That's when the old woman came. She appeared at the market on a day when the sky was grey and heavy with rain that wouldn't fall. Small, bent, wrapped in cloth so dark it seemed to drink the light around her. Some said she had been old even when their grandmothers were young, that she had always been there at the edges of villages, waiting for women like Wanjiru. Wanjiru didn't notice her at first. She was buying maize, trying to ignore the pregnant woman at the next stall, whose belly was round and full and mocking. Then she felt it, eyes on her, not just looking, seeing. She turned. The old woman was staring at her with eyes that were too bright, too knowing. "You want a child," the old woman said. Not a question, a statement of fact. Wanjiru's throat tightened. She wanted to deny it, to walk away, but instead she found herself nodding. The old woman smiled. It was not a comforting smile. "You can help me," she said. Wanjiru should have walked away. She should have run. But when you're drowning for 7 years, you don't question the hand that offers to pull you out, even if the hand has claws. "How?" Wanjiru whispered. "How can you help me?" The old woman gestured for her to come closer. Wanjiru did, and the old woman whispered instructions that made Wanjiru's skin crawl, but also made her heart race with something she hadn't felt in years: hope. "Come to my hut," the old woman said. "3 nights from now, when the moon is hidden, bring these things." She listed items, strange things: a black rooster that had never crowed, soil from a fresh grave of a child who had died of fever, her own blood she collected with shaking hands, and one more thing: bring something precious, something you love more than anything, because the spirits demand payment, always. Wanjiru hesitated. What kind of spirits? The old woman's smile widened, the kind that answer when others won't. Wanjiru told herself she wouldn't go. For 3 days she told herself this was madness, witchcraft, evil. But on the 3rd night, when the moon hid behind thick clouds, she found herself gathering the items. The black rooster she bought from a farmer who asked no questions. The soil she took from the fresh grave of a child who had died of fever. Her own blood she collected with shaking hands. And the precious thing, she brought her mother's necklace, the only thing she had left of the woman who had given birth to her, the woman who had loved her. It felt like a betrayal, but desperation has no loyalty.
The old woman's hut was deep in the forest, far from any path, far from any light. When Wanjiru arrived, the old woman was waiting. The hut smelled of things that had rotted, of smoke that wasn't from wood, of something sweet and wrong. "You came," the old woman said. "Good. Many turn back at the last moment, but not you. You are truly desperate." She took the items from Wanjiru: the rooster, the soil, the blood, the necklace. She examined each one carefully, then nodded with satisfaction. "These will do." What happened next, Wanjiru would never speak of. Not to her husband, not to her mother, not even to herself in the quiet moments before sleep. There were words spoken in a language that hurt to hear. There was smoke that made the air thick and hard to breathe. There was the rooster, its neck broken with hands too strong for such an old woman. There was blood, the rooster's mixed with Wanjiru's, poured into a clay pot. And then there was the drink. "Swallow this," the old woman commanded, holding out a cup filled with something dark and thick. Wanjiru looked at it, looked at the old woman, and made her choice. She drank. It burned going down, like swallowing fire, like swallowing death. She gasped, choking, her body trying to reject it, but the old woman held her mouth closed. "Keep it down," she hissed, "or this was all for nothing." Wanjiru forced herself to swallow, to keep the poison inside her. The old woman released her. Wanjiru fell to her knees, retching but bringing nothing up. "It is done," the old woman said. "You will conceive within 1 month, but remember this, Wanjiru." The old woman's voice dropped to something barely human. "What is given by darkness cannot live in light. What you carry will not be entirely yours. It will be shared with the things that answered your prayer."
Wanjiru wanted to ask what that meant, but the old woman's eyes had gone completely black, and Wanjiru ran. 3 weeks later, Wanjiru missed her monthly cycle. She didn't tell anyone, not yet. She waited. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Her breasts became tender. Her stomach felt different, full in a way it had never been before. She went to the medicine man. He examined her, felt her belly, listened. Then he looked at her with something like wonder. "Wanjiru," he said slowly, "you are pregnant." She started crying, not sad tears, joy, pure overwhelming joy. 7 years, 7 years of emptiness, and finally, she was going to be a mother. Kamau wept when she told him. He held her so tight she could barely breathe. "A child," he kept saying. "We are going to have a child." The village rejoiced. The women who whispered now celebrated. "Ngai has finally blessed her," they said. "After 7 years, the curse is broken," they agreed. Wanjiru's mother-in-law, who had been cold for so long, warmed. She brought gifts, prepared special foods, sang songs of blessing. For the first time in 7 years, Wanjiru felt like she belonged. But late at night, when Kamau was sleeping and the compound was quiet, Wanjiru would place her hand on her growing belly and remember the old woman's words. "What you carry will not be entirely yours. It will be shared with the things that answered your prayer." The pregnancy was wrong. Wanjiru would wake at night to find her belly rippling, not gentle kicks, but something moving beneath her skin in patterns that were not human, coiling, uncoiling, like watching snakes beneath fabric. And one night, she would never forget this. She woke to find her bedroom freezing cold, so cold she could see her breath. Her hand on her belly felt not warmth, but ice.
The thing inside her was cold. Animals knew it too. The family goat gave birth to twin kids, both born dead, eyes open, staring. 3 days later, the goat itself died. No wound, no sickness, just stopped living. After the goat died, no animal would come near Wanjiru. Dogs would whine and back away. Chickens would scatter in panic. Even insects seemed to avoid her. The midwife came to check on her at 6 months, an experienced woman who had delivered hundreds of babies. But when she placed her hands on Wanjiru's belly, she pulled them back immediately, as if burned. "Where did this pregnancy come from?" the midwife whispered. "After 7 years of nothing, suddenly this. How?" Wanjiru couldn't speak, couldn't admit what she had done. The midwife saw the truth in her silence. "Oh, Wanjiru, what have you done?" She left without another word and told no one, because some secrets are too dangerous to speak aloud. The labor began on a night when the sky was black. No moon, no stars, just darkness. It started with pain, not the natural pain of childbirth, but something worse, something that felt like being torn apart from the inside. Kamau ran to get the midwife. She came, reluctantly. When she entered the hut and saw Wanjiru writhing on the mat, she knew this would not be a normal birth. "Get the elders and the medicine man, quickly." "Why? What is wrong?" "Just go." Kamau ran, and the midwife turned to Wanjiru, who was screaming now, not from pain, from terror, because she could feel it, the thing inside her, moving, not down toward birth, but up toward her heart, her lungs, her throat.
It won't come out. It doesn't want to leave. You have to push, the midwife said, though her hands were shaking. I can't. It's holding on. And then the room went cold. So cold that their breath came out in visible puffs. So cold that frost formed on the walls. The lamp flickered, went out. In the darkness, they heard it. A sound that was not human. A sound that came from Wanjiru's belly, laughing. The thing inside her was laughing. When Kamau returned with the medicine man and 3 elders, the hut was silent, too silent. They rushed inside and found Wanjiru on the mat, alive, but barely alive. Her skin was grey, her eyes were open but unseeing, her belly was flat. And in her arms, wrapped in cloth, was the baby. The medicine man approached slowly, carefully, as one approaches a coiled snake. He pulled back the cloth and immediately stepped back. "Ngai have mercy," he whispered. The baby was wrong. It had all the right parts: 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 eyes, 1 mouth. But it was all wrong. The eyes were too dark, not brown or black, but dark like a void that had no bottom. The skin was too pale, almost translucent, veins visible beneath like a map of something terrible. And when it opened its mouth, the medicine man saw that the baby had teeth, small, sharp, already fully formed. Babies are not born with teeth. "What is it?" Kamau whispered. "It is what she asked for," the medicine man said quietly. "A child, but not a human child, not entirely." They wanted to kill it. The elders argued that it should be taken into the forest, left there. Whatever evil lived in it would die without human care. But Wanjiru, barely conscious, held the thing tighter. "No, my baby, my child. I waited 7 years. You will not take it from me." Kamau looked at his wife, looked at the thing in her arms, and made a choice that would destroy everything. "It stays," Kamau said. The elders left, shaking their heads. The medicine man left, refusing payment. Only the midwife stayed long enough to say one thing. "That child will bring darkness to this home. Mark my words. You should have let it die." Then she too left, and Wanjiru and Kamau were alone with the thing they would call their daughter. They named her Nyambura. For the first few months, she seemed almost normal. She cried like babies cry. She fed like babies feed. She slept like babies sleep. But there were signs. She grew too fast. By 3 months, she looked 6 months old. By 6 months, she looked like a 1-year-old. Her teeth came in fully by 4 months, sharp little teeth that cut through the nipple when she fed. Wanjiru's breasts were covered in scars. And her eyes, those terrible eyes, never seemed to blink. She would stare at you for hours, unmoving, unblinking, watching.
Animals died around her. The chickens in the compound stopped laying eggs. Then they started dying, one by one. No wounds, no illness, just dead. The goat gave birth to a stillborn kid, then another. Then the goat itself died. The shamba stopped producing. Plants that had grown strong for years suddenly withered. The maize turned black on the stalk, the beans shriveled. And always, always, Nyambura watched with those empty, terrible eyes. By her first birthday, though she looked like a 3-year-old, the compound was dead. No animals lived there anymore. No plants grew. Even insects avoided the place. Wanjiru had aged 10 years in one. Her hair had gone gray. Her face was drawn and hollow. She moved like a ghost in her own home. Because she knew. She had known from the beginning, but she couldn't admit it. The thing she had birthed was not her daughter. It was something else. Something that fed on life itself. And it was hungry. Kamau tried to leave. One night, he told Wanjiru they had to go. This place is cursed. The child is cursed. We need to leave her here and start again somewhere else. Wanjiru stared at him with dead eyes. Leave my daughter? That is not your daughter, Kamau said, his voice breaking. Look at it, Wanjiru. Look at what it's done. Everything it touches dies. She is my daughter, Wanjiru repeated. I carried her for 9 months. I gave birth to her. She is mine. Then I'll leave alone, Kamau said. And he tried. He packed his things that night, waited until Wanjiru fell asleep, waited until Nyambura's terrible eyes finally closed. He walked out of the hut, walked toward the path that would lead him away from this cursed place. He made it 10 steps. Then he heard it. A voice, small, sweet, childlike. Papa, where are you going? He turned. Nyambura stood in the doorway of the hut, her child's body silhouetted against the lamplight inside, her eyes gleaming in the darkness. You can't leave, Papa. Mama needs you, and I need you. Stay back, Kamau warned. Nyambura smiled with all those sharp little teeth. You can't leave, Nyambura repeated. None of us can. And Kamau felt it. Something tightening around his chest, around his heart, like invisible fingers squeezing. He couldn't breathe, couldn't move, could only stand there as the thing wearing his daughter's face walked toward him. Come back inside, Papa. It's cold out here. And Kamau's body obeyed, against his will, against every instinct screaming at him to run. He walked back inside the hut, lay down beside Wanjiru, and never tried to leave again. The village elders came one final time. They had heard the stories, the dead animals, the withered crops, the way Kamau and Wanjiru never left their compound anymore, the way they looked hollow. This must end, the chief elder said. They brought the medicine man. They brought blessed water. They brought fire. They were going to cleanse the cursed family, one way or another. But when they arrived at the compound, they found only silence. The hut was empty. No Wanjiru, no Kamau, no Nyambura, just emptiness. And in the center of the main room, 3 piles of dust, as if the family had simply crumbled, turned to nothing, blown away by wind that never came. The medicine man knelt beside the dust, whispered prayers, then stood up, his face grim. They are gone, he said. Not dead, not alive, just gone, consumed by what they invited in. And the child? Asked an elder. The medicine man looked toward the forest, toward the darkness between the trees. Walking, he said quietly, looking for another family that wants something badly enough to pay any price. They burned the compound to the ground, salted the earth so nothing would ever grow there again, and they warned their children, never make deals with darkness. Never seek answers from those who live in shadows. Never want something so badly that you're willing to sacrifice everything for it. Because some prices are too high. Some gifts come wrapped in curses. And some children are not really children at all.
Wanjiru wanted a baby. It was not a selfish want, not an evil want. It was natural, human, beautiful even. But she went about it the wrong way. She let desperation guide her instead of patience. She let darkness help her instead of waiting for light. She thought the end justified the means. And she paid. Oh, how she paid. With her life, with her husband's life, with her soul. The child she wanted so desperately became the thing that destroyed her. So, when you want something, want it so badly you can taste it, want it so badly you would do anything, stop. Ask yourself, what am I willing to pay for this? What am I willing to sacrifice? What am I willing to become? Because some desires, when fulfilled the wrong way, don't give you what you wanted. They give you exactly what you deserve. And sometimes, what you deserve is a nightmare wrapped in the skin of a dream. They say the thing that was born that night still walks, not as a child anymore, but as something older, something patient, something that knows how to wait. And it doesn't just seek women who want children, it seeks anyone who wants something desperately enough, anyone willing to make a deal, anyone who says, I don't care what it costs, I just need this one thing. Wealth, love, power, revenge, a child. The desire doesn't matter. What matters is the desperation. Because that's what curses feed on. Not evil, desperation. And when it finds you, when you're at your lowest, your weakest, your most desperate, it will appear. Maybe as an old woman, maybe as a kind stranger, maybe as a friend who knows someone who can help. But always, always, it will offer you exactly what you want for a price you think you can afford, until you realize, too late, that the price was everything.
Moral. Desperation makes us vulnerable to darkness. The things we want most can become the instruments of our destruction if we seek them through evil means. Wait for blessings to come in their proper time through proper channels. What is gained through darkness will never bring light.